All right, everybody. My name is Ryan. The name of the channel is Ryan Talks. I'm going to talk about mental health on this channel. And the first video that I wanted to do just specifically for this channel, the first thing that I wanted to talk about was something that I'm actually going through and I've been dealing with for months now. And that is, can you reinvent yourself basically after turning 40? And so that is the topic of this video. And here we go. So this is something that I'm actually having to do myself. So a long-term 15, 16-year relationship of mine is breaking up. She's moving on. We're both separating out of this house that we're in. There's no kids involved. And a surgery that I had on my ankle separated me basically from my postal job. And so basically I'm having to reinvent everything in my life. And the question is, can it be done? All right. So I started thinking to myself and I started wondering and I started pondering on this. And this is what I'm going to talk about in this video. So if you, so back in the World War II, I believe this was done. Unfortunately, this was not a very humane thing that was done, but they took a bunch of people, they put them down underground, not in graves, but they put them down underneath the ground so they couldn't see what time of day it was, right? They put these people down in this facility that had everything that they wanted. It had like a gym, it had a recreational area. TV wasn't really around back then, so it might have had like a movie. I don't know. They had a bunch of things. It had a kitchen, it had a gymnasium, it had, I don't know if it had a pool or not. And they wanted, and it had unlimited food. All right. So there's no food restriction. There was no restriction of any kind whatsoever. They wanted to see what people would do in an environment that was completely uncontrolled, other than the fact that you didn't know what time of day it was. There was no reference to time whatsoever. The people that were working in this facility, they would come in like this double door, like one door would open and then they'd have to close it and then they would come in and they would have to make it so the people in this place could not tell what time of day it was. So they noticed some patterns, right? People started having new hobbies. They started having new thoughts. They started writing. They started having journals. They started talking in different ways. They started finding that they had talents that they never knew that they had. I mean, it was crazy. Then they also found that these people, I think it was, they only ate 2 times a day. I forget what the calorie count was, and I don't even know if that was specific to this study, right? But they found that these were completely different people. By the time, and they also were sleeping, I think, only 4 hours a day, right? So the standard 8-hour thing that they tell you, I don't know how true is that, because if you put people in an environment where they're in control of everything and they have no idea, they have no reference whatsoever to time, then they go on about their day exactly how they would go about their day with no restrictions. And they found that when these people came out, they were completely different people. I mean, they're, from what I've read, I wasn't there, but, people didn't recognize them anymore. They had these talents that nobody knew that they had. They could not go back to the mundane. And I start to thinking to myself, and I know I'm trying to talk quiet because I know there's an echo, but I started thinking to myself, what if you were this person? What if you didn't know how old you were? What if you didn't know what time it was? What if you didn't know any of this stuff? What would you be doing? I mean, if you're a high-powered executive right now, would that be what you did if you had no restrictions, if you had no reference to time, if you had no ideas in your head of what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what is it that you would actually go out there and do? And so this is what I have been contemplating. And this is why I started this YouTube, my other YouTube channel. And this is why I started this YouTube channel as well, because I am exploring this. I have had some thoughts in my mind. I've realized that I have repressed myself because of some of the friends that I have, which sounds ridiculous. And I've also got an issue that I'm just realizing now after all these years with basically I had abandonment issues in my own head. Right. I had these abandonment issues in my own head from when I was growing up. My sister is 7 years younger than me. And when she came around, I felt abandoned by my parents. I really did. We actually joke about this. This is like she's the favorite child. Not that I really think that, but there's some times where it feels like that, but I know I know it's not. But I've internalized this, and I've internalized some of the other things that I've had in my life with different friends, and I knew they weren't as smart as me or something like this. And so I didn't go and reach my full potential because I didn't want to leave them behind. Or I didn't, do certain things because I didn't want other people in my life to think, well, look how fancy he is, and, he can do this and he could do that now, and, he's leaving us in the dust. But the reality is you can't live like this. And unfortunately, not unfortunately and fortunately, because I'm glad that it's all happening. It took me 41 years to realize this. You can't live in the shadow of somebody else. You can't live based on an abandonment issue that you have from, mine goes back to 1987. That's a long time ago. 1987 this hit, and I have not been the same person since. I've talked about this. If you go to my other channel, it'll be linked below. I've actually talked a little bit about this in some of the videos that I've done. I was always the nicest kid in the world, and it dawned on me that this changed in 1987. My parents always talk about, and I know I'm getting around to a point, but you really have to analyze what it is that got you to the place that you're in, that you're asking yourself how to reinvent yourself at 40. And this is mine. I can only speak for myself. But, it changed when she came around. And I'm just now realizing this, 34 years later, 35 years later. And it's daunting. So I've been going through processes of letting this go. So before you can reinvent yourself, I think you first have to come into yourself and realize that you yourself has to change. You have to change you before you can move on. You can't change something with the same mind that got you in the place that you're in. You can't change something with the same thoughts that you're having that got you to where you're at. You have got to meet the vibrational level of where you want to be, and you've first got to work on yourself. Like if you're in a terrible relationship and it's over, or if you're in a new relationship and it's already not going well and you realize that you're only doing this because of the thought of the relationship, not what the relationship is. Like I've said many times, and I know that I'm not the only one that said this, like if you can't say no within a relationship, then you're going to have to eventually say no to the relationship. Or if you are using somebody else just to be in a relationship, or if they're using you to be in a relationship, you're going to have to get rid of a lot of this stuff. And then you're going to have to come inwards and you really have to ask yourself what it is that you want to do. Because you can't reinvent yourself with the same thoughts that got you to where you are. Now, if you're just somebody who is in a situation where you just lost your job, and you just want the same job, I don't know that you have to reinvent yourself, but you might still want to look into this as, do you really like that job, and why did you lose it? Now, if it was just a simple matter of the company went out and somebody bought them out and, they got rid of all but 3 people, then that's one thing. But if you're at a company for years and all of a sudden it's gone, why did that happen? Is it a blessing? You have to really look into this. Is this a good thing? Is this something you were just doing for the bottom line? Is this something that you were just doing to keep all the stuff that's in your life that you don't even remember that you have? These are some important questions. These are questions that I've been asking myself, and actually a good friend of mine just got rid of, she said, 80% of her wardrobe because she was keeping it just because she had it, and it's just, You've got to let go of this baggage before I think you can reinvent yourself. Now, do I have all the answers? Does anybody? No. But from what I can see, and from the people that I know that have reinvented themselves, or the people that I know that have actually finally achieved or achieved most of their life, what it is that they were looking for, they are generally not attached to outcome. So that's number one. You've got to let go of the outcome of the situation that you are in. Because if you don't let go of the outcome or let go of whatever it is around you, you're always going to be either trying to live in the past or the future, which is impossible. You've only got now. So you've got to dictate where you are now and know that it's going to get you where you want to be in the future. But you can't just willy-nilly it, right? You've got to have a plan in place. You got to sit down and you got to write this stuff out. You got to have a journal. You got to, if you're somebody who's like, well, I'm not journaling, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this, you're going to have to start in some capacity, whether it's dictating to your phone and rereading it, if it's writing it on a piece of paper like I've got over there, or a notebook like I've got over there. You've got to figure this out. To reinvent yourself, you're going to have to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there, right? It's just like somebody who can't see their feet. How do they know where they're walking? You can't see where you're going. And the feet are your foundation. So let these notes, let these notebooks, let whatever it is, let the dictations be the foundation of wherever it is that you're going. So the answer to the question, 12 minutes in, and I think I'm just going to cut it here. The answer to the question, in my mind, is yes. Can you reinvent yourself after 40? Yes. There's absolutely no reason that you can't do it. You know what I mean? If you got any comments, questions, concerns, leave them down below. If I did you any good, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.